overwhelmed the news that Trump had revealed himself to be a cheerful sexual assaulter of women through the leaked Access Hollywood tapes. When was that? Was that October, probably October of 2016. So long ago now. Those of us who are still alive, we survived what Trump did to the world in downplaying the pandemic. And Trump, I wouldn't call him charismatic myself, but he obviously does resonate, particularly with a lot of men who are suspicious that they will be displaced from their status in society by the efforts of feminist women and potentially by migration, that they have some kind of special privileges that they need to work to protect, and that Trump was the only person standing up for their safety and security in not only a physical sense, but in a prideful sense. I don't have, oh yes, I do have the comment section open. I just don't have much of an audience yet, but for the 4 people who are here, I appreciate you. And with any luck, those numbers will continue as I go on. I put the title today as the Republican Party because it is news that the mainstream media are at least reporting more now on the collusion that existed between Trump's campaign team and intelligence agencies in Russia with the Kremlin, with the Russian government. And the reason why that is getting talked about more today is because the US Treasury is the first official organization that has specified that Konstantin Kilimnik is a Russian agent and works with the Russian government currently, and that's why they're sanctioning him, because there's already a bipartisan Republican-led Senate group that confirmed, yes, what was reported on in the Mueller report has been subsequently confirmed elsewhere. Paul Manafort asked his deputy, Paul Manafort, then acting as Trump's campaign manager, asked Trump's deputy campaign manager at the time, Rick Gates, to print out voter information, sensitive polling data that the Republican Party had obtained, and they were sharing all of their resources with their candidate, Trump, at that point in time. They printed it out and they handed it over in the Havana Bar, which is a Cuban cigar bar located in Trump Tower in New York. Handed it over to Konstantin Kilimnik, who then flew out of the country, flew back to Russia, and as the US Treasury today confirmed, handed it over to Russian intelligence agencies. So, Bob's here, and Bob says, hello from Bernards. Kimchi says, hi, Dav, good to catch you live. Yes, made the effort to be a little bit earlier today. I'll try and be even a little bit earlier tomorrow. And yes, and I'd also just like to note that the Republican Party is currently raising money through defending Tucker Carlson, because Tucker Carlson has always been a white supremacist for the last few decades, but he's really publicly ramping up the white supremacist rhetoric, which is very domestic terrorism themed, very prone to inciting domestic terrorism. And the GOP are sharing a fundraising email that says, Tucker Carlson's absolutely right. So Tucker Carlson has been arguing that the country is being stolen, that white people are being disenfranchised by the influx of migrants that occurs over time, that displaces the true Americans. So yes, Tucker Carlson is not an aberration. Tucker Carlson is a symbiotic cog in the wheel of the Republican propaganda machine, because there's a symbiotic relationship between that very remorselessly effective right-wing media machine and the Republican Party, and the way that both of them operate as a cover group, a cover story for a very effective lobby group that helps gun manufacturers maximize their profit margins at the expense of American lives, at the expense of American emotional equanimity, because it's hard living in a country where there's so much domestic terrorism enabled via Republican obstruction of gun safety legislation, that there's a mass shooting event every single day. There's been 45 mass shooting events, I think, in the last month alone. That's extraordinary. Anyway, the latest mass shooting event at a FedEx facility is it in Illinois? Apparently 4 out of the 8 people confirmed killed are of Sikh background. Sikh people the men wear turbans and are often conflated with Muslim religious adherents, even though they're not Muslim, it's a different religion. So someone purposefully seeking to murder people whose non-Christian religion is very evident, that might be someone really acting on Tucker Carlson's rhetoric, the rhetoric spread by Tucker Carlson, Rush Limbaugh when he was alive, Alex Jones, Newsmax, OAN, Murdoch's minions on the Fox News nightly lineup, Sean Hannity, Laura Ingraham. They try and promote the idea that migrants are dirty and undesirable, and that people born in America have some kind of elevated rights and privileges that should not be disturbed by something as clearly unsatisfactory as migration. So that's what prompts me to be here. Oopsies. I've missed some comments. So Bob's here, Kimchi's here, Hammerstrand is here and gave me the Waterworks Award. That's a nice award. Knowledge El Shabazz is here. Mr. Ed is here. Mr. Ed. Well, howdy. Nice to see you. And Brett, Kim, excellent. Hey, everyone. I know it's awkward and uncomfortable, but I think we should watch a little bit of this old footage of the attack on the Capitol, just because it serves Republican interests for us to forget about it or ignore it. And it's still very much an issue that should be current, because Republicans have not yet been held answerable for their actions in inciting this attempted overthrow of the government, this violent uprising in which people attempted to violently compel legislators to void the results of the democratic election in favor of a authoritarian second term from a malevolently incompetent leader, Donald Trump, and his corrupt assistants, Kellyanne Conway, Stephen Miller. A lot of people helped Trump hurt America and hurt the world, because America set a bad example when Donald Trump was at the helm, set a bad example for belittling the unfolding science. Science is the process of understanding things. And as scientists and researchers, virologists, aerosol scientists grew in their understanding of COVID and its methods of transmission, how it's more airborne transmitted than surface transmission, tried to share that with the world. And instead, Donald Trump, whilst knowing the disease was airborne, continued to conceal that information from the public. Oh, I haven't clicked share yet.
We will not go quietly into the night.
Oops. I'm still here. I'm just setting up.
Strength. We're going to walk.
It's still here. Oh, good. Okay. Just going to rewind it for a second.
We will not go quietly into the night. And that we need to march on the Capitol today.
We are going to take our country back.
We're coming for you, and we're going to have a good time doing it.
Let's have trial by combat.
You'll never take back our country with weakness. You have to show strength. We're going to walk down, and I'll be there with you, to the Capitol.
In 2 hours, this woman will be dead.
We are now walking down the inaugural path to the Capitol building.
Oh, there we go.
The U.S. Capitol has been breached.
Hey, Cap.
5 minutes since Capitol breach.
I call on President Trump to go on national television now and demand an end to this siege.
At least one improvised explosive device has been found on the grounds of the U.S. Capitol.
Repeatedly being told by the National Guard at the national level that we did not have authorization.
We love you. You're very special. Our incredible journey is only just beginning.
So that was made by Don Winslow Films, and I think it's very important. Oh, here we go. I'm coming back again. So yes, Kim notes that every news station should play this weekly, or we can pretend to forget. I don't think they'll do that so much, but at least there's creative people on the internet who are continuing to use the plethora of available video evidence to compile fresh takes for us to at least have some novelty as a spoonful of sugar to help the medicine of intellectually engaging with what happened on that day once again. So I hadn't seen that footage of Ashley Babbitt smiling and talking to the camera shortly before her death, a few hours later. To me, that's a very impactful juxtaposition, because she's an attractive woman, full of life and healthy. And to know that she was shot as she tried to breach through some doors to get to reach legislators, because that's what they thought they were doing. They thought they were justified to overthrow the government in order to reinstall Trump for a second term. They thought that was fair, that was justified. I've seen people use the term patriot instead of patriot, that they so despise Democrats that they're not capable of thinking rationally about evidence, about what it means that the court system had rejected Trump's case in over 62 instances, that it wasn't just 62 cases worth of, arbitrary decisions, or 62 cases worth of people being petty. It was 62 cases of Trump's cases being thrown out because there was no case, because the election wasn't stolen, the election was legitimate, and that meant people who continued to chant that it was being stolen were all part of a plot to help Trump get what he wanted at the expense of American democracy, and therefore at the expense of the American people. Bob notes that his cousin retweeted some writings by H.L. Mencken about the American Anglo-Saxons and their idea of immigrants. I'm not familiar with H.L. Mencken's work, although I've heard the name before. So tell me more, Bob, about what the implications of that are. I'll note someone else says that America has 4% of the world's population, but also 44% of the world's guns. And I'm going to bring up a graph shared by Gavin Newsom. So you can see Gavin Newsom here, the governor of California, says what getting back to normal in America means after a pandemic. So it shows all the shootings in the past month. And the thing is, yes, the odds are stacked against what's popular in a majority sense because Republicans have this minority control influence over the Senate. And then I'm including Joe Manchin in with the Republican influence there. That makes it difficult, and in the context of the filibuster rule, makes it difficult to pass laws to keep America safer, to reduce the risk posed to everybody's safety by reducing the proliferation of guns, the fact that people can get guns without having the type of insurance you need to have a car, even though you can cause a similar amount of destruction with a gun that you can with a car. So yes, Hammerstrand noted when I played that video, sickening demagoguery. Yes, it is sickening demagoguery. And some people have said, oh, we're so startled by America's descent into fascism. It's so unnerving, it's so upsetting. And black people have noted, look, recent events have drawn your attention more to what's happening, but there have been these anti-democratic currents afoot for a long time. It's just they weren't so blatantly attacking your rights, they were attacking our rights. We were targeted as black citizens of America, and efforts were made to try and deny us the power to vote and to use our collective interests to get political power to be used for good. So yes, when you're ever feeling shocked or alarmed and how can this be happening, remember that it's not new. Our attention has just been newly directed to it over the last few years. But for many decades now and preceding that, there's been a long history with various ebbs and flows in the degree to which Black Americans have been persecuted by people in power. Yes. All right, so that was Gavin Newsom. And I'm here, and it doesn't bother me yet. If people say to me, why are you making everything about race? They're not saying it so much to my face yet because, believe me, I'm happy to keep saying this out loud when we move to the States. But at the moment, I don't have any interpersonal, like literally in my physical environment, American friends who say, oh, such a whiner, why are you making this all about race? So hopefully I'll be adept enough at it that when I move to the US, if anybody does say that to my face, I'll have something succinct and clear to say to highlight the fact that it fundamentally is about race and that a lot of the attacks on American democracy have been driven by the intent to deprive Black Americans of rights and to run a white wealth protection racket. Actually, I think I've heard that H.L. Mencken is racist. Is that the case? And they've Mencken. He says an American journalist, essayist, satirist. Does he have a television series based on his work recently? He was an admirer of Friedrich Nietzsche, an outspoken opponent of religion. Some of the terminology in his private diaries has been described by some researchers as racist and anti-Semitic, although this characterization has been disputed. His attitude to African Americans reflected the conservative paternalism of his era, and the kind of anti-Semitism that appears in Mencken's private diary may be found elsewhere, for example, in the early letters of Eleanor Roosevelt and Adlai Stevenson. Oh no, not Eleanor Roosevelt. Not Eleanor Roosevelt. He seemed to show a genuine enthusiasm for militarism, but never in its American form. War is a good thing, he once wrote, because it is honest. It admits the central fact of human nature. A nation too long at peace becomes a sort of gigantic old maid. Well, that's very interesting, that he characterizes peace as being feminine. I've said that a lot, I think. more in my earlier days of broadcasting that just remembered I have a light. There we go. That people sometimes feel like there's a pendulum that swings towards preferencing men or women, and that men can sometimes feel threatened when they feel that popular dialogue and the cultural moment is favoring women and also womanly approaches to things. Mr. Ed says Dav. Yes, Mr. Ed, what are you saying Dav about? Did I do something wrong? Who's been watching the thanks for the high award, Mr. Ed. Who's been watching that new Disney Marvel show called The Falcon and the Winter Soldier? Because I don't want to say any spoilers, but I do want to commend it for its focus on the topic of race dynamics in the US and what it might mean to have a Black Captain America. Hi, sweetie. Could you read a little bit first, please? 5 minutes.
It's 30 minutes ago.
All right. I guess Daddy did say that. All right. Somebody notes it would be helpful if gun violence could be understood to be a health and safety emergency of national proportions. Actually, we have learned a lot of things in the last year about how to confront a massive health crisis that could be applicable. That's an interesting question, and now I have to think of what have we learned about COVID in relation to COVID that's applicable to the health and safety emergency of gun violence. We've learned that you can't just overlook the harm that some states are doing through their legislatures. You sometimes need sensible federal laws to create a safe environment for everyone. I mean, today someone was arrested in New York City carrying an AR-15, and that was a young man from Ohio who said he was allowed to open carry because he's from Ohio. So people under the impression that you can take your state background and then just use that to negate the laws of a state you're in. So both Mr. Ed and Christopher Lucas have said hi. Hello. Lots of people are protesting in Chicago right now. So I think those protests are getting quite violent. And that's just, it's sad. It's sad. But I would like to say that I also condemn gang violence and gun violence, and that I don't think you should defund the police. I think people still rely on a police force to maintain a degree of law and order, to maintain a degree of safety, of opposition to random acts of civilian violence. So even though it's completely unacceptable for police officers to use violence in unjustified ways against the population, it's also unacceptable to have no safeguards to deter civilian violence against other civilians. So both forms of violence are bad. It's frustrating and unjust to pay the salaries of police officers who if you're a Black taxpayer who then has to exist in a world where you are aware that people of your skin color are going to be disproportionately targeted for police violence, and that there's a large part of the white population that will always find a way to excuse and justify that violence and pretend that it's not unfairly happening to you, that it's not making your tax payments a cruel and brutal joke. All right, I'm moving on to the topic now of Roger Stone, and reading out loud to you that the Department of Justice filed a lawsuit today against ex-Trump advisor Roger Stone So this is a civil lawsuit rather than a criminal lawsuit for some reason, possibly to do with trying to circumvent the pardon issued by Trump to Roger Stone, but saying that he owes nearly $2 million in unpaid taxes and penalties, and that he and his wife used an LLC to shield their personal income from forced collection and fund a lavish lifestyle. Okay, yep. So Roger Stone is such a crook, he doesn't believe in ever paying taxes. Ooh, oh wow. Kimchi just, first person I've seen do this, started a monthly sponsorship. I didn't know you could do that. That's really cool. Thank you. Thank you, Kimchi. And Bob notes more tragically that a mother posted that in the 20 years since her son was killed, there have been 800,000 gun deaths and 1.3 million injured and 300 mass shootings. Wow, well, the pace of mass shootings has really escalated then in the last half decade or so, hasn't it? Because there have been 45 mass shootings, I think, just in 2021 alone so far, at least. So what is an LLC? Limited liability company. It's a business structure in the United States whereby the owners are not personally liable for the company's debts or liabilities. Limited liability companies are hybrid entities that combine the characteristics of a corporation with those of a partnership or a sole proprietorship. So it's just something that primarily exists to circumvent tax legislation, to reduce personal liability, so you can't be held responsible for debts incurred by your hybrid corporation sole proprietorship. And Roger Stone had one of those. I wonder what type of business he claimed to be running. Yes, limited liability. The Department of Justice straight up accuses Roger Stone and his wife of fraud, even though it's a civil case. From the lawsuit, point number 52 is the Stones intended to defraud the United States by maintaining their assets in Drake Ventures accounts, which they completely controlled, and using these assets to purchase the Stone residence in the name of the Bertrand Trust. The Stones' purchase of the Stone residence using funds they held in the Drake Ventures Wells Fargo account is marked by numerous badges of fraud. They include that the Stones were in substantial debt to the United States at the time of the transfer, rendering them insolvent at the time of the transfer and unable to pay their debt to the United States. The Stones faced the threat of litigation. Roger Stone had just been indicted, and the Stones anticipated that the United States would resort to forced collection. Okay, so they're saying they were trying to avoid all those legal consequences by using this limited liability company and a trust. Well, we have a little trolley person, which is making an interesting statement. The white liberals will never solve the black man's problems. Why are you using black man either? Like, do you think black women are exempt from having problems? Because I assure you, disadvantage and discrimination accrue mightily to women who are black, because they are affected not just by racism, but by the compounded impact of sexism as well. So they get a double whammy of prejudice. And black women die at substantially higher rates than white women in the medical system when they're pregnant or in labor. And part of that reason is the pervasive racism around hair. And so because it's still derided as unprofessional to have natural hair for many black women in professional contexts or in schooling contexts, people are motivated to invest a lot of time, energy, and money in straightening their hair or making it more white-passing hairstyles. And chemical hair straightening substances are associated with entering into the human body through scalp burns and cuts on the scalp, and are associated with a much higher incidence of uterine fibroid growths, than occur in the white female population. And those growths, although benign and not cancerous, are still associated with a lot more internal bleeding during pregnancy and during labor. So that is probably one factor in the higher rate of death and illness for Black women who go through labor, who fall pregnant, or as well as, to say nothing of the implicit bias baked into a lot of medical professionals' dealings with their patients. We've seen that in the context of babies be demonstrated by researchers who thanks, Mr. Ed, researchers who analysed 1 million births at a few hospitals longitudinally in Florida and found that Black babies were 3 times more likely to live if they were being cared for by a Black doctor rather than a white doctor. And that disparity highlighted the tragic and awful circumstance that even if it's not intentional, there is a marked deficit of care, even for babies, even for innocent babies, if their skin color is Black. And then white doctors are just putting less effort in than Black doctors are to save the lives of medically complex babies who need hospital care. Mr. Ed is just happy that I'm broadcasting at a time that allows him to join in with a live broadcast. I'll tell my husband you said that, Mr. Ed, so that he can feel maybe a glow of pride that his wife is attracting some acclaim for her physical qualities on the internet. Yay, internet. So that's Roger Stone being charged with cheating on his tax using an LLC and owing $2 million to the government. There's a double mutant variant of COVID-19 virus being found in India. Well, that's a concern, but the good news is still that that the data from Pfizer and from Moderna are showing that they still have high efficacy rates against the COVID variants that we have so far. It is bad that COVID is getting very out of control in India as well as Brazil, because the more the virus flourishes, the more opportunities it has within its human hosts to mutate. And I don't know if you know this about cancer, but obviously we've got a lot of chromosomes. And once you get one mutation, if the mutation is for, say, protein expression, and those proteins help regulate a normal cell environment, and you can't do that anymore because you've got this mutation and that protein is no longer produced appropriately, that facilitates further mutations, and you can get other mutations that then cause for any growth limiting circumstances to no longer occur. So you get mutation and another mutation compounding the problems, and cancer then proliferating in somebody's body, because cancer is your own cells no longer obeying the laws of residency in your body and just growing out of control in awkward places until your other organs begin to fail. Uncontrolled cell proliferation in your bones, in your lungs. Your lungs leaves you less room to breathe. Your bones, they need the cells to function normally. And yeah, watching somebody die of cancer is no fun. And then you can see how growths that aren't a disease, that aren't a bacteria, they're just your own cells that have just got out of hand because of mutations. That helps you understand how potentially deadly mutations can be. Mr. Ed notes that he gets his second shot on Monday. That is very exciting, Mr. Ed. What type of shot have you got? Are you getting the Pfizer, the Moderna, the AstraZeneca, the J&J? And Kimchi is getting hers tomorrow. Mr. Ed's giving us some healthy doses of colloquialism. Jim Jordan can suck it, he says. I bet Fauci wanted to walk over and slap him upside the head. And Mr. Ed's got the Moderna shot. I bet Mr. Fauci's impulses. Well, you know what? Who knows what goes on in Dr. Fauci's head? So yes, maybe slapping was there, but maybe he's also used to being very effective with what he says. I'm going to play a small explanatory video about the one-dose vaccine, the J&J vaccine, from an actor who's been applauded by various scientists, virologists, and epidemiologists. His TikTok name and Twitter name is Hot Vic Krishna. He's very good with what he does, and he really engaged with the research before he made these. So full credit to him. This is his video on why we only need one dose for the J&J vaccine.
Hey! Stop! Who are you? I'm going to infect you. He's going to replicate and come out. Forks. I've never seen these before. Whatever this is, it's serious. We might be getting infected now. I'll burn them out just in case while I make new antibodies. Seize the forks. Fork hands. Who wants COVID? Attack! Modern science.
All right.
Hey!
Thanks for listening to that.
Stop.
That was a good break for me from talking. And I have shown that video to my children, and my son said, "What's so bad about forks?" And I was able to take the opportunity to say that forks just represent the antigens on COVID in that scenario. So J&J were clearly able to attach COVID antigens, which are harmless in themselves but are identifiers for COVID. Attach those antigens to an adenovirus and then get your body used to producing antibodies that will then be able to seek out, attach to the antigens, and basically act as signals to bring your whole immune system to bear on the problem of getting rid of COVID before it gets rid of you. So yes, Jeff says all his Periscope peeps are here.
Can I have something to eat?
Yeah, would you like a sandwich, baby?
Yes, I do.
What would you like? Do you want some popcorn?
Yes, please.
Yes, please. Okay. Well, then I'm going to say goodbye. Do you want to come help me say goodbye to my...
Bye.
This Bubba wants popcorn. What else do you want? Cucumber?
Mm-hmm.
No cucumber?
Mm-hmm.
What about capsicum? Do you want to tell anybody about how good you are brushing your teeth at the moment? Because the last time you gave them a big speech, you told everybody that brushing your teeth was really important.
Ooh, Mama.
Yes.
I was thinking, I never see you ever eating breakfast.
Mm.
You never eat breakfast.
That's true. I tend to not eat. Well, yeah. Maybe I eat it just while I'm getting...
Maybe I could get breakfast. Would you like plain bread for breakfast? We could try.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Okay. Tomorrow we get Mama breakfast. Oh. When she wakes up, if you are hungry for some breakfast, we get Mama breakfast.
Oh. All right. Bob says thank you. Kimchi says, uh-oh. Oh, look, she says, oh, she thinks that's a nice idea that you can get me breakfast.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe you can get me some water in the morning, so I would like that. Mm-hmm. That would be lovely.
Because remember today I said, if you want some water, and the first day I could get it. Remember I said that.
And you got yourself some water today too. I was proud of you for that. My life has been made so much easier by surrendering to help and getting some apps on the iPad that help encourage my children to brush their teeth. So instead of me just telling you to brush your teeth, we have some different apps where you can be encouraged to brush your teeth and have avatars and do all sorts of things. Oh, look, Jeff says give mummy breakfast in bed. He likes that idea.
Oh.
Because some people do that just for Mother's Day, but if you just do that because you just feel like it for love, then that's extra special. Yeah.
I could also try and get cereal. I could.
Yeah.
If I know what cereal is.
What if mummy makes overnight oats and leaves it in the fridge and then you just bring that to me in the morning? That would be super cool.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah?
Because then you could eat the oats for breakfast.
Yeah, I would love that.
Or I could get you the plain bread.
You like plain bread for breakfast more than I do. I'm not such a plain bread person. But if I just add some milk and water to oats and leave it overnight, and then with some maybe grated apple or something.
Just like one night, then the next day.
Yeah, then that's a special type of breakfast. It's called overnight oats. You're supposed to do that to the oats, leave it in the fridge, and it makes the oats a bit soggy and easier to eat. Ziki says, I'm back listening to some good content. Oh, it says Sesame Street has good teeth brushing songs. Yes, from Elmo. Yeah, we used to use those a lot. I think Zeke yeah, that's Jeff saying Mummy will like it. All right, well, thanks so much for listening, everybody. Let's do a quick summary of the content for today then, something that's important.
Mommy, you said you would say goodbye.
I did. So I want to do a wrap-up of saying...
You said that like...
I did, but I want to say Lindsey Graham has come to conclude that climate change is real. Now, that's a big deal because it means even Republicans are finding it now politically untenable to lie about climate change. I have to say goodbye.
Ice cream.
Not ice cream.
Ice cream.
You're saying ice cream because you like it when my listeners say ice cream. Bob says, what does he say? He says, brushy, brush, brush, brushy, brush.
Oh, by the way, is carrots, and the second idea is you're fighting monsters as
Oh, yeah, here we are.
Oh, we're back. Now I can keep telling you.
Okay.
Okay, so there's 2 monsters. One, your character brushes their teeth, and you could like follow what your character is doing with their teeth, and you can choose that character one. Yeah,
Don't
you
touch
can
that,
choose
that's the
the
microphone,
character. And the second one is where, like, when you brush your teeth, you get points defeating monsters, and you get new stuff in your treasure box. And, like, if level 60 is a red dragon. How do I know that? My brother got up to level 60. And both of those 2 games make toothbrushing fun.
It's really important to make toothbrushing fun, isn't it?
Yeah.
It shows that Mummy respects what you want and what makes it fun for you, and not just telling you to do the right thing and brush your teeth.
Yeah, and before she's telling us to do our teeth, now she's telling us to stop doing our
That's true.
to stop brushing your teeth.
Now I have to tell you to stop because you both want to keep brushing and brushing.
Yeah,
and brushing.
because it's super fun. And it's so in Brainchild, make anything a game, and people want to do it more. It's so did in Brainchild.
Oh yeah, they like to watch a Netflix show called Brainchild, which I recommend because it's really engaging for children and teaches them lots of science and scientific concepts and some pop psychology.
Hold on.
Everybody might have gone now because it looked before like we left, and we did say we were going to leave, didn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, look, Perry Pilot says this young lady speaks wise words. Were you being wise? It was wisdom you learned from Brainchild, wasn't it? It's good wisdom. Good wisdom. All right, folks, we are off to make popcorn. Shall we say thank you to everybody? Thank you to everybody for being part of the broadcast today. Resistance Radio, Pro-Democracy Variety Hour, whatever we're called. We're going to try and broadcast earlier on a regular basis. And for now, we'll say sayonara. Do you know how to say goodbye in any other languages? Can you say goodbye in Chinese? How do you say goodbye in Chinese?
Oh, and I can also say January, February.
Yeah, how do you say goodbye? How do you say goodbye?
Hold on, sometimes I forget because it's a lot.
You think about it. You can say January, February if you want. I shouldn't have interrupted.
I could say
say
January.
Okay.
Yeah. And I can say February too. That's my birthday, February. Oh yeah, is my birthday. That means February is my birthday.
But don't tell the internet your birthday, Pumpkin. Yeah, that's all right. At least you just said the month. You didn't say the day.
Okay.
Oh, look, and they said au revoir. That means goodbye in French. Can you say au revoir?
Au revoir.
Very good. Can you say à bientôt?
Yeah, I know.
How you say in Chinese?
Yeah, 谢谢. How you say goodbye in Chinese?
谢谢.
谢谢.
Can we say anything else like have a good day in Chinese?
I could sing happy birthday.
In Chinese?
Yeah, I
Okay.
can.
Okay.
祝生日快乐，祝生日快乐，祝你生日快乐，祝你生日快乐.
That was our musical segment for the day. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Make sure to eat lots of ice cream.